We've come so far in such a short amount of time, conquering the challenges before us alongside Olimar and the Pikmin. It's time to face even more fears and dive into another area of PNF 404, an area overflowing with dangers both from the hostile creatures and from the environment itself. It's time for the Forest Navel. Having done all we can for now in the Forest of Hope, we set down in a far darker and more oppressive location. Olimar checks his radar immediately to get an idea of the land and where we need to head to, and designates this new environment the Forest Navel. First things first, Olimar begins exploring the environment without the Pikmin. He'd rather know what's coming before he drags his army into unknown dangers. We see darkness, a bleak color palette, and a notable lack of the lush greenery we've become accustomed to, and in its place is water, geysers, and rock formations. We do spot a familiar sight, however, and make a beeline for it. Sure enough, it's another onion, this time in a lovely blue color and surrounded by water. Same as before, the onion flushes with color and comes to life, offering us a new seed, and with it a new type of Pikmin. We pluck the sprout as soon as possible and find this Pikmin type has no nose or ears, but instead a mouth and gills. It's actually able to brave water without any issues, which means our capabilities just expanded tremendously. We waste no time and get to making more blue Pikmin. This is an incredible find, one that all but guarantees our success in recovering all of our ship parts, provided we can survive what lies ahead. This short time without worry as we build our blue Pikmin's numbers in this safe pool provides much needed relief from the otherwise claustrophobic pressure of the Forest Navel. It's hard not to wonder, as we watch our Pikmin work, what kinds of horrible life forms call a place like this home? Our question is answered only a moment later as we spy a very strange and oddly endearing creature waddling its way around. It resembles other grub dogs, but doesn't appear hostile, so we leave it alone, as we don't have numbers for a fight right now. As we explore with our blue Pikmin, we pass by some pebbles that the Pikmin begin digging up. To our surprise, nectar begins to pop out. It's never a bad idea to have more flower Pikmin, so Olimar lets the Pikmin have their way, allowing them to drink up the enriching liquid. We take a shortcut back to our base, intending to even out our Pikmin colors and get prepared for proper exploration. The grub dog we spotted earlier seems to be enjoying the peace of our base as well. After observing its odd form a little longer, we name it a breadbug. It does, after all, look a bit yeasty. Having balanced our team while still leaving room for more blue Pikmin, we set our goal on taking out this nearby bramble wall so we can have easier access to our base. While harvesting some pellets for our blues, a pile of wood catches our eye, as does the ship part that lies opposite the pile. We swarm our Pikmin to it, and like we hoped, they begin building a way across this gap. It doesn't seem that Olimar will be able to cross with them, but he can still safely guide them down. We've found Olimar's automatic gear, a part that he describes in a way that leaves us with more questions about its function, but it's a ship part regardless. Leaving that to our Pikmin, we venture a little farther with our remaining team and encounter a new offshoot of sheargrubs. These off-putting variants have wings and try to fly away and recover when injured, making these a slightly more strategic affair than their landlocked counterparts. Thankfully, they don't pose much of a danger now, and their small numbers means we can take them out rather quickly. We decide to hold off on collecting bodies in favor of some more exploration. Olimar skirts past these large gray creatures and scopes out more of the area near our base. The Pikmin place the automatic gear back into the dolphin just as we start to head back to check on them. Our part count now going up to 6 out of 30. After gathering up our army, we take just the blue Pikmin to collect the bodies from earlier and further boost their numbers. We need to be able to take as many blue Pikmin with us as possible when we head into more dangerous waters. We take a moment to look around the area where we found the onion and see a ship part just down a ledge and in a pool, which means it's a perfect chance to take advantage of our new aquatic capabilities. Olimar heads to the blue onion to round up all of our blue Pikmin. We throw them down the ledge and grab a few yellows to make use of the bomb rocks also below us. We separate the blues and yellows and head to the part. Olimar tells us it's the #1 Ionium jet, a powerful source of propulsion with a powerful exhaust smell to match. We send it on its way back to our ship thanks to the blue Pikmin, and send our yellows and leftover blues up the stick to the ledge above. We've got bomb rocks to use now. We gather our Pikmin as the Ionian jet gets installed back into the Dolphin, and plan out where to use bomb rocks first. We decide on this black stone wall by our base, opening up a new route for Olimar and the Pikmin. Time is running short now, so we gather all of our Pikmin and prepare for another night in orbit. The Forest Navel always scared the hell out of me as a kid. It's such a different vibe than the rest of the game, and drastically different than the first two areas. The music is strange, kind of alien, and really unsettles you in a whimsical sort of way that's oddly perfect. The first little chunk of this area does a good job of telling you what blue Pikmin are all about with just the fact that you find the blue onion in water, something that until now was to be avoided at all costs. It reinforces this new mechanic pretty well with the nearby ship part too, letting you use blue Pikmin for the first time in a safe-ish environment. It brings sticks and geysers into the equation well enough too, placing the pile of sticks directly across from a ship part just out of reach. It makes you immediately think, okay, the Pikmin have to be able to do something here. The only problem I have so far, and there will be others later, is the ridiculous number of stone walls. While yes, most of them are optional, it also just feels like a little bit of overkill having to destroy so many stone walls with limited bomb rocks, and having to build a few things on top of that to fully open the paths. It does feel pretty good when you finally get around to getting them all down, but it doesn't feel that worth it, since by the time you do that, there probably won't be much left to do here. For now though, there's quite a bit left to get into. Setting down for our second day here, Olimar resolves that it's time to explore more of the bleak darkness that surrounds us. We take out our yellow and red Pikmin and set off. It's time to take on those strange gray creatures from earlier, so we have our yellows hang back and take our strongest fighters forward. Swarming the beast inflicts a lot of damage, but it throws off the Pikmin, and to our shock, it begins spewing flames onto us and our Pikmin. But it appears that the red Pikmin are miraculously unfazed by the fire and fight on. Olimar takes some damage from the flames, but our reds are injury-free. Armed with this new information, and no reason to fear these creatures anymore, we take our Crimson Army onward to clear the area of the flame spitters that Olimar names Fiery Blowhogs. After thinning their numbers rather easily, we approach one by the water, and as we engage, we draw the attention of a water-dwelling creature. It takes flight before crashing down in an attempt to crush both Olimar and the Pikmin. This battle becomes much more frantic now, and we incur some losses, but prevail in the end. As we approach the final Fiery Blowhog, we notice that the bread bug from before is trying to steal our spoils. Olimar has a Pikmin grab hold of the pellet, and they begin a tug of war, the bread bug getting dragged along back to the onion. Before we follow, we take out that final Blowhog. Our Pikmin get to work hauling the many bodies back to base, and as Olimar follows, we see the bread bug making an escape. Seizing the opportunity to take out a weakened enemy, with a precise toss of a Pikmin, we strike a killing blow on it. We're amazed to find a ship part falling out of the defeated creature, this one being the space float. Evidently, Olimar isn't very good at swimming in space, and this device helps, somehow. We gather our Pikmin together and build 2 slopes nearby to make our back and forth much easier. Then we send our space float on its way to the ship. Upon exploring a bit deeper, we engage in a fight with a family of sheargrubs and shearwigs, but we're joined again by the same creature that crushed our Pikmin earlier. Once again, a simple fight becomes a bit more dire and difficult as we scramble to regain control of the situation. About a dozen Pikmin are lost, but we come out of the battle as the victors. With daylight running out, the rest of the day is spent gathering up enemy bodies, pellet posies, and mentally preparing for an even deeper exploration tomorrow morning. As far as the second day goes, there's only one thing I really have to say, and that is that I love bread bugs. It's such a fun little novelty of an enemy that I'm really happy came back so hard in later games. The little tug of war that you have to do with these little guys is always a nice, silly little distraction from the otherwise escalating battles. Like, how can you not love this? I wish I was a loaf of bread. The days ahead of us are sadly devoid of silly distractions and filled with struggle, death, and stress. Another day begins in the forest navel, and we set off promptly with all of our Pikmin colors in tow. Olimar spots a fiery blowhog that we missed in our initial sweep. It's in a small area next to water and seemingly guarding a bramble wall. The close quarters and proximity to water mandates that we handle this encounter with care, lest our red Pikmin get flung into the water nearby. With the blowhog gone, all of our Pikmin start on the arduous task of demolishing the black bramble wall. After some anxious waiting in the oppressive darkness of this rocky landscape, that wall falls and Olimar realizes that this entire place is dangerous, environment and all. Maneuvering our Pikmin around the flame-spewing geysers, we set them to work on a bridge. Their sheer numbers make fairly quick work of it, and we're met with a bit of a tricky situation. First, we must unclog the geyser in a pool of water so Olimar can get up to that ledge. Next is taking advantage of their aerodynamics and throwing some yellow Pikmin up onto the ledge. After Olimar is up too, we can see the ship part promised by our radar. After our yellows bring it down, we call them off and throw our reds on the job. Since they're immune to fire, they can safely bring the part back to the ship without worrying about the flame geysers on the path. Olimar tells us that this, much like the Sagittarius before, isn't an essential part but was a gift from his daughter. He takes a moment and wonders what she's up to back home on Hakatate. But with the day already half over, we need to remain focused. Heading a little farther up the path, we're met with a dead end and a ship part sitting in a pool. Though we have a stick-in geyser here, to get that part back safely, we'll need to haul it out with our blues, and have our reds take it back through the fire. As we approach it, Olimar informs us that it's his analog computer, a device that he describes very vaguely due to his own vague knowledge of what it actually does. We can't help but wonder how many of these parts are actually essential, and how many of them Olimar has simply been told were essential. Regardless, it's coming back with us. Or so we'd like, but we don't have enough blue Pikmin to haul it out of the water. After some brief backtracking, we get it out of the water and safely on its way to the ship. Upon returning to base, we decide to tackle the deeper waters of the area and summon a full party of blue Pikmin. As we tread into the water, we see more of those pale, crushing critters. Olimar gives them the name Wallyhops, and we start our long battle. We take out one quickly, waiting until it hits the ground and anchoring it with our Pikmin. It works, however, it gets one last hop in and takes a good chunk of our Pikmin with it. Finding some success with the swarming, we repeat this tactic but call our Pikmin back before it can go airborne again, which successfully minimizes casualties, and that's another Wallyhop down. On a small patch of land, we find the anti-dioxin filter and learn from Olimar that it filters all the toxins from the dolphin's exhaust, minimizing its environmental impact. We waste no time in getting it hauled back to shore and have our blues clean up the treasures of battle to replenish their damaged numbers. As Olimar wanders, he spots a ship part up on a small ledge. A task for tomorrow, sadly, as the sun is rapidly setting. We leave the anti-dioxin filter on the shore for easy retrieval tomorrow morning and head to orbit. This day 3 is a stressful and frustrating one, especially for new players. Not knowing you should have all 3 Pikmin types, or at the very least the 2 required types when you head past that bramble wall, can lead to frustrating backtracking and lost time. The same goes for the ship part farther up and not having enough blue Pikmin. The forest navel has always felt a bit off to me. It feels almost like it's from a different stage of development with its approach to mechanics and even the design of the whole place. That being said, I really enjoy when Pikmin makes you use your head a little and manage all 3 Pikmin types to accomplish things. Sadly, that's only really used like 3 times in the first game, with most other puzzles in the game being solved with only 2 Pikmin types. None of this is necessarily a bad thing though, considering that 3D game design and level design in general was still a very young art at the time. The 2 hardest days here still lie ahead, filled with things that terrified little Sugarwater to no end. We start our day in the forest navel by plucking out some of the blue Pikmin we left in the ground overnight. It's fascinating that when they're planted, they're left alone by predators, even overnight. We gather our forces and set out for a productive day. Heading right for the part we left on the shore last night, we get it on its way. Next, we head on over to that ledge Olimar discovered before we left yesterday, throwing enough Pikmin up there to efficiently build a bridge down. We get up to the ship part and learn that it's called the gravity jumper, a crucial component in making the jump to super light speed. This seems pretty important despite appearing to just be a giant spring. With 2 ship parts recovered before noon, we're off to a pretty good start today. Now though, we're off to unexplored territory. First, we stock up on bomb rocks and then build a bridge to get back up this ledge. Olimar starts demolishing some more of the walls in the area so we can easily get around, and as the Pikmin work, we start to form a plan of action. A few bomb rocks and radar check later, we decide to first go for the part in this small valley, and this part of the forest navel is mighty mysterious. It's covered in bioluminescent mushrooms and fire geysers, though otherwise it's pitch black, and we see something that looks like a living mushroom waddling around. If Olimar was a betting man, he'd surely go all in on that creature having one of our parts. We first try throwing a bomb rock at it, but astoundingly it has almost no effect. So we resort to the ever-reliable tactic of swarming the enemy. The Pikmin knock it off balance and it rolls onto its head, revealing its vulnerable underbelly. We throw as many Pikmin as we can before it gets back up and inflict some good damage on it. Once it regains its composure, it releases this cloud of spores that we'd best avoid. We take down the creature without incident and find our bet to be correct. It had a ship part. This piece is called the Omega Stabilizer, and in addition to being important for navigation, Olimar just likes its aesthetic. Understandable. We head to the last ship part on the radar and we're met with absolute terror as this massive, long-legged biomechanical creature comes slamming down onto us. It wastes no time in stomping on a group of our Pikmin as we scramble to regain our composure. Though we lose quite a few Pikmin, we make careful throws and eventually its body starts to come apart before finally falling to our assault. The final ship part of the navel is before us, the Guard Satellite, which functions exactly like you'd think, orbiting the dolphin and helping keep Olimar and the ship safe. The problem here is that we are out of daylight, which means we sadly will have to come back one more time just to retrieve this part. The next morning we come back, grab the part, get it installed, and call it an early day as we make our final departure from this strange and terrifying place. As a kid, I never explored any more of the forest navel than was absolutely necessary. I was terrified of the beady long legs, terrified of the puff stool, and terrified of all the hazards in this area. Looking back now, I think I had good reason to be afraid. This is where the game stops pulling any punches and throws you fully into the wild and unforgiving world around you. If you're a new player, you'll probably be intimidated too. This place is eerie. The atmosphere, the music, the enemies, all of it is perfectly unnerving in a very Pikmin way, but it still feels oddly disconnected from every other area. That aside, as an adult, I have a love-hate relationship with the forest navel. It's always satisfying to get through, and I love the creepiness of it and the varied challenges it throws at you, but I also dread the forest navel every time I play Pikmin 1. Now, we may be done with the forest navel, but look at that timestamp down there. I am far from shutting up today. And if you're enjoying my stuff so far, consider hitting that subscribe button for me. It would genuinely mean a lot. Without further ado, let's head to the distant spring. From the dolphin, this looks like a perfect little oasis. There's clear water everywhere, much more colorful flora and fauna, and a less claustrophobic energy to it. Olimar sets off on his own to get a feel for the area, and we see an egg? Is that an egg in the distance? We get close, and this is definitely an egg. It doesn't seem to respond to Olimar, but maybe if we used a Pikmin, we could crack it open. We take only a few blue Pikmin to attack the egg and station our red Pikmin on the shore, just in case there's danger in that egg. Unfortunately, there was danger in that egg, and we see a horrifying, ethereal abomination heading right for us and our base. Its glowing red eyes making our blood run cold and our palms sweat as it closes in. It sets itself right below one of our onions, and to our horror, any Pikmin caught in its cloud-like body just simply cease to exist, perishing on contact. We begin to panic and desperately throw our Pikmin at its face. Thankfully, this tactic seems to damage it, but this is going to be a truly difficult fight. The sanctity of our base camp has been defiled for the first time ever, and by this demonic presence no less. Olimar begins to question, is anywhere actually safe on PNF 404? With good positioning and aim, we managed to vanquish this crawling horror, and hopefully we never have to see one again. Olimar dubs this creature the Smoky Prog, and we feel very suddenly humbled by this planet. We recover the orb that the Smoky Prog dropped, and it drastically increases our Pikmin numbers. At the very least, our army is doing well. Our rude welcome party concluded, we head towards the water nearby with our blue Pikmin. Here we encounter a more colorful version of the Wollihop we encountered in the Forest Navel, though this time we hit hard and fast, and it perishes before it can even counterattack. We sweep the area of Wollihops, albeit losing more than a few Pikmin to their belly flops. Continuing to explore the water, we come across these lifeforms that resemble small aquatic bulborbs. Olimar names them water dumples and theorizes that they are actually a part of the grub dog family. They're definitely aggressive and make an immediate move to eat our beloved Pikmin. Thankfully, it's not much of a threat thanks to our numbers and quickly becomes fodder for our leafy companions. The larger group of them we encounter a moment later, however, does manage to devour some Pikmin. We also get an eyeful of this horrid-looking floating creature that we name the Puffy Blowhog. It also falls quickly to our Pikmin though. By this point, neither us nor Olimar are willing to take any chances, and start every encounter with a one-strike, one-kill mentality that so far is benefiting us in the distant spring. As luck would have it, that Puffy Blowhog was also in possession of a ship part. We can now reclaim our interstellar radio, important both for broadcasting an SOS and for preserving Olimar's sanity, as he can at least hear the voices of other spacefaring travelers. As Olimar guides the Pikmin back to base with our spoils, we encounter another Puffy Blowhog that tries to send our Pikmin flying with its strong breath, though thankfully it's easily distracted by Olimar, who is unharmed by its gusts. More importantly, we see another new member of the grub dog family slumbering nearby. Olimar dubs it a spotty bulbear, noting that it looks far more vicious than a normal bulborb. They've not noticed us or our Pikmin as they retrieve bodies from the water, so we decide to keep it that way for the moment. With the radio reinstalled, we turn our attention to dealing with this rather obnoxious Puffy Blowhog. With that taken care of, we turn our attention to plucking our fresh Pikmin and continuing to collect the bodies left behind by our plant-powered pillaging. We spy a ship part past a sleeping bulbear, so we naturally rush the bulbear, and it falls before it can do anything in retaliation. Our reward is Olimar's massage machine. Well, as someone with a weird spine, I guess I get why it's essential. Unfortunately, our blue Pikmin can't transport this through water. And with not enough time left to build this bridge, we must wait until tomorrow to retrieve that part. Hopefully Olimar's back can last just one more night. So it goes without saying, but I don't ever recall encountering the Smoky Prog as a kid. Which is probably for the best, because even as a Pikmin experienced adult, the Smoky Prog is terrifying in this game. It's the only enemy that makes a point of heading straight for what's supposed to be your safe area. Your sanctuary that, until now, has given you an almost guaranteed safe place, is suddenly transformed into the location of a brutal battle for survival. Even now, there's been playthroughs where I made one mistake or just got unlucky and lost triple digits worth of Pikmin. Overall, this may be my second favorite area in the game, ethereal horrors notwithstanding. The scenery is just so pleasant and varied enough that it feels like a truly unique habitat. It being the largest area in the game also helps with that feeling of exploration and discovery. Even the music is spot on. It's an almost meditative track, similar to the title screen. That's a stark contrast to the kind of struggles you'll face here. It introduces the most challenging encounters and puzzles in the game. Final trial excluded, but that's for the final video. The enemies, the environment, it's all ramped up to 10, but it doesn't feel that intimidating or oppressive. And I, for one, really love the optional stress of the Smoky Prog. Both a reward and a punishment for players that are fast enough to see it. Maybe that's the Dark Souls player in me talking though. There is one very irritating thing we've encountered already here. And that's that for some reason that's not explained, some ship parts just can't be taken through water and require a bridge instead. This doesn't feel like it was an intentional choice, since there are other parts that your blue Pikmin can take through water just fine. This feels like an oversight, or maybe a way of forcing the player to experience parts of the level design. Like, it's almost as if they designed some of these bridges and then realized after that the blue Pikmin could just negate it. Alternatively, It's entirely possible none of it was intentional, and it's just a result of very strange pathing on the Pikmin's part that they couldn't find a good way around in time. Much like all my other complaints, this isn't major by any means, just more of a minor annoyance. We've got plenty of time left at the distant spring though. A new dawn breaks in the distant spring, and with it comes new challenges for us. Thanks to our radar, we spy a ship part in some ruined structures by the water. Olimar gathers up our blue Pikmin and we set off for the day. After briefly assessing the situation, it's clear our part is on a higher ledge, one that looks to be connected to this walled off area. With some careful maneuvering, we get our Pikmin up and around and we can retrieve the repair type bolt. Olimar tells us it's an automated system that can repair almost anything in the ship if needed. Maybe not as important for takeoff, but certainly essential for efficient travel. This part, it appears, can be transported through water, so after a short trip, we have our repair type bolt reinstalled. We gather up our blues, head back to Olimar's massager, and after dealing with some shearwigs, we get that bridge built. Olimar's massager is on its way back to the ship, and tonight his aching body will get some much needed relief. We keep our blues out and decide to gather some more water-locked ship parts. A few bullbears sleep in our path, but Olimar is used to combat now, and they're defeated without too much incident. We do encounter an annoyance, though. This flying insect has a tendency of swooping down to grab our Pikmin, flying off to replant them elsewhere. We gather some of the scattered Pikmin, name this annoyance a swooping snitch bug, and resume our planned route. We get the Pikmin building a bridge as Olimar distracts the nearby yellow Wallyhop. With one side done, we lead our Pikmin to the other, deal with a family of shearwigs, and get to building. Before we can finish, however, that yellow Wallyhop decides it can ignore us no longer. We lure it to better footing, and our poor planning costs us almost half our Pikmin. That Wallyhop easily took out so many of our Pikmin. Despite the somber sacrifice, we find our gluon drive, which is yet another ship part that Olimar has no real understanding of. With the part on its way back, we consult the radar and plan out our next move. We set back off with our blue Pikmin in the hopes of clearing the water of ship parts first. There's something to take care of though. Us, Olimar, and the Pikmin have all had enough of this snitch bug. It gets taken down with extreme prejudice, and we feel a sense of satisfaction now that we've made the rest of our day here far less obnoxious. Sadly, it doesn't look like we'll be able to grab another part today, as our path was blocked by a stone wall. We can, however, gather some much needed fodder for our yellow Pikmin before we take off for the night. I don't have that much to say about our second day in the distant spring, sadly. We can definitely talk about that Wallyhop though. This moment right here really reinforces the fact we talked about in the last video. The fact that we are incredibly fragile, and one misstep with even a small enemy can cost us dearly. All it takes is getting a little too cocky, and even an experienced player can have their numbers halved in an instant. We've plenty more mayhem ahead of us too. Setting down for another day at the distant spring, and we know straight away that bomb rocks are on today's schedule. So after gathering some yellows and a lot of blues, we set off in search of bomb rocks, finding them in the remains of some massive creature. We tried to take down that stone wall from last night, but we don't seem to have enough bomb rocks. Finding more bomb rocks now takes priority for us if we want to take that route. Olimar recalls more bomb rocks and more remains where we found his massager before, so with some sneaking, we have plenty of bombs for whatever might come our way. Now that the wall's out of the way, we can continue on, and much to our annoyance and dread, we find another snitch bug and a few more Wallyhops. The snitch bug is taken out fast. The Wallyhops, though, will require some strategy. We sort our Pikmin and set off for battle with our amphibious antagonist. Both are taken out quick and clean, and Olimar can set our blue Pikmin sights on this bramble wall. Olimar sets off on his own to get a lay of the land and returns just in time to see the bramble get cleared. Behind the wall, we find the zirconium rotor, a ship part that Olimar suspects he was overcharged for the installation of. We send a group of blues off with the rotor and turn our attention to a black bramble wall behind us. Given our surplus of bomb rocks, we make use of a few to save some time and blow up the bramble blocking our path. After reuniting with our forces, we take our blues and venture farther into the water. Another part is quickly spotted in a small recess of land, and it's revealed to be Olimar's pilot's seat. We have to imagine that without this, piloting every day has been uncomfortable to say the least. With that on its way to the ship, we reunite with our bomb rock-toting yellow Pikmin and take only those few with us. Another bramble wall is taken down, Olimar makes a lap around to complete our understanding of the layout of the area, and we return to base. With time running out for today, it's best that we open any paths we can for tomorrow's expedition. We deal with a small family of shearwigs, throw our Pikmin up this ledge, and our path up gets completed just in time for another sunset on PNF 404. With another day at the distant spring, we check Olimar's radar and realize just how close we are to our goal. Only 5 parts remain missing and 4 of them are right here in the distant spring. This means Olimar's return home is approaching rapidly. With this hopeful sentiment in hand, we summon our party of Pikmin, take the yellows to retrieve some bombs, and open up the last shortcut to our base. After retrieving the rest of our Pikmin, it's time to clear out the nearby bullbears since a shortcut is only useful if you don't get eaten while using it. We start the battle strong, but a passing puffy blowhog causes tragedy. It scatters our Pikmin all over, allowing the bullbear to swallow a massive mouthful of them before it perishes. It's tricky to fight one near water, but the blowhog also dies, and we must now replenish our party. A fresh squad of Pikmin with us, we set out to clear the rest of our new shortcut. With that done, we take our reds up that bridge from last night and face down another armored cannon beetle. We have less Pikmin than our last encounter with one, but it falls almost instantly to our grizzled and experienced Olimar. As it dies, the beetle drops the bowsprit of the SS Dolphin. With this recovered, much more of the Dolphin's sleek exterior will be restored. We leave the ship part in the capable hands of our red Pikmin and take our blues to the pond nearby. With some quick problem solving, Olimar throws our Pikmin up this ledge, geysers himself up, and gets enough Pikmin over the gap to bring down that part. It turns out to be our second Ionium jet. We need to move though, as the nearby water dumples have noticed us and are heading our way. Thankfully, our Pikmin carry the part fast, and we get it out of the pond and back to the Dolphin. After reorganizing our party a bit, we head for a nearby ship part that rests high on the ruined remains of this strange structure. It seems this one will require some finesse and clever thinking. Olimar throws up our yellow Pikmin and begins his attempt at guiding them over this narrow path. The ship part we see is the UV lamp, which is a handheld light that Olimar evidently has a habit of looking directly into. After some precise guidance, we have the UV lamp heading to base. The end of our journey is fully in sight now. With only one part remaining here and the sun getting low in the sky, we gather some enemy bodies and leave our final part for tomorrow morning. Again, not too much to say for our 4th day in the distant spring, though we do see a little more of the puzzle-oriented gameplay that I wish we got more of at a higher quality. I call it a puzzle, but it's not really much of one. It's not difficult enough to be called a puzzle. It's more of a fight between you and the bad pathing of the Pikmin and your control of them. Other than that, there's nothing new here, but we have one short day left, and it has my favorite puzzle of the whole game. Our final day here at the spring begins, and brings with it a uniquely heartbreaking scene. It appears that the offspring of the bullbears we killed are now here, and desperately confused about where their parents are. Sadly, they're still hostile, and we need them gone. Once the dwarf bullbears and a puffy blowhog are dealt with, our path to the final part is open. Spying a yellow flower on the platform above, Olimar throws our Pikmin up and geysers up himself. Upon us throwing blue Pikmin into its beautiful petals, it closes up and spits out yellow Pikmin seeds. These yellows will be vital to getting down the ship part perched a bit away. Thanks to how aerodynamic the yellows are, Olimar is able to throw them to the shore nearby and get them up to that part. Olimar informs us it's the Chronos Reactor, a bizarre and barely understood machine that can warp the space-time continuum and convert it into energy. We don't have enough blue Pikmin with us to get it back, but we do have a blue flower nearby that Olimar assumes functions the same as the yellow one. As we watch it convert yellow to blue, it's decided we'll call these flowers candy pop buds. With that on its way to the ship, that's it. That's the last part here. That leaves only one more part in total before the dolphin is fully repaired. Olimar's journey is just about over. And though it's been a long and brutal adventure, we can't help but feel anxious about actually leaving PNF 404 behind. Only one more area remains. With the distant spring done, let's talk about it a little bit more before we end off. First, the dwarf ball bears genuinely break my heart, and I see their faces when I fall asleep. Seriously though, the small touches here do so much for making this world feel real. Once it's past day 15, those ball bear babies will start spawning here. If their parents are still around, you'll see them wandering around with them or foraging next to their sleeping parent. If you get rid of the ball bears like I did, you'll see the children gathered in circles where their parents would be, crying out and sniffing around, desperate to find their parent. Even being as desensitized to the emotional pulls of Pikmin 1 as I am, I still have to fight to not cry when I see this. It's so effective. The thing I want to end with is this puzzle. It's such a unique one, and the only one in the entire game that requires thoughtful use of candy pop buds. I wish so much that there was more of this in the first game. Or do I? While I love that mechanical choice, it also feels very artificial. Most of the other environmental touches and puzzles feel at least somewhat organic, like it could happen in nature. This feels like it was designed. The single raised platform with just the right color of flower on it, just the right distance away from the other shore to throw your Pikmin to it, with that shore having just the right flower you need to get your Pikmin and the part back. This feels kind of empty and artificial. I love the concept, and I love that they thought about how to use these mechanics in a puzzle, but the way it was executed is one of the most frustrating things in this game for me. It was so close. If a little more time had been given for making this little bit feel more natural, it would have been fantastic. The design here works too. It feels like we're platforming on structures in a human's garden or something. I'm not sure how to put into words what I would have done differently had I been in the developer's shoes, and just like before, this isn't a massive problem by any means. It's just one puzzle, and it's just a brief, mediocre lull in an otherwise excellent experience. The distant spring is a really satisfying area and makes for an excellent semi-final area. Every mechanic and tactic you've learned is used here, and your skills are properly tested with a huge variety of enemies, hazards, and challenges. It gives us the nightmare-fueled adrenaline high of fighting the smoky prog. It lets us experience a non-lethal but still irritating encounter with the snitch bug, and it gives us the spotty ball bear. How can you not love this design? Plus, like, got them lips on it. This area is, I'd say, my second favorite. Even just on vibes alone, it would still take second for me. More importantly though, we're not just near the end of our journey with Olimar. We're almost at the end of our journey together through Pikmin 1. We still have one really big and really scary hurdle left before I get all emotional though. I want to take a moment to give my huge thanks to, as of recording this, my one Patreon supporter, Lilith, and to thank all of you for sharing your valuable time with me. It makes me genuinely so happy. I'll see you next time when we tackle the final trial, and as always, I love you all.